this week's episode, we have a recap of the dental student conference, the Canadian Dental Student Conference,
Yeah.
which Neki was the keynote speaker at, and also convinced me to come to on the pod.
Yeah.
And hooked up the ticket. So I appreciate that, homie.
No, that's awesome. I'm so glad you could come and we could hang out. I honestly I didn't expect it to be that big.
Yeah, like I thought it was going to be like a maximum like 150, 200 people. There was probably what, 400?
No, there was 500 students. Yeah.
500.
Yeah. It was
Wow.
when I was talking to the organizer, Nima and the entire board of the FCDSA, congratulations for holding such an amazing conference. But he said like all the schools were well attended, but the worst attended schools were the ones in Montreal because I don't blame them. It's not fun for them to travel anywhere
Yeah.
because they're still at home, right? But schools from all across Canada were there, and lots of U of T and lots of Western presence. So that was good.
Yeah. Well, U of T, like, again, because we look like we're a lot of people because we're already such a big school. So even if 5% of us go, it looks
Yeah.
pretty big in comparison. But I was like, guys, like, come on. Like in my year, I was one of, I think, two people. Ella's year, she was one of one.
Yeah.
Like really the only big turnout was the fourth years. And I think they had about, sad because we're the biggest dental school. And then, Western's doing their cheer at the front of the room. USask is doing their cheer at the front of the
Yeah.
room. I'm like, you guys have like 10 people a year. Like, I'm surprised I can even hear you.
Totally, right?
And then U of T is just like fizzled out. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, we could have torn this place down. But
Yeah.
there's still a really good turnout. There's still a really
Oh
good
man,
turnout
it was
overall.
it was a really really good time. I'm just honored that I could be a part of it. I was the old irrelevant one there, right? So it was
No,
it
no.
was called.
I was texting you that weekend. I'm like, dude, I'm at the bar and I'm like a mini celebrity because I'm co-hosting the podcast with you. And like, you were the man that weekend. So I was like, you're the guy that's doing it with Nike. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Just carrying around a Sharpie to the bar.
Oh shit,
I'm gonna
here we
sign
go.
anything.
Yeah. Dude, I found it really funny though, because you say that, but I would walk around the conference and like people were like, I wanted to talk to anyone that would want to talk to me. And people were like, I don't know if they were scared to talk to me or if
I
I
know it's
was
probably it.
intimidating, but I was like, dude, why isn't anyone talking to me?
Please talk to me.
Please talk to me, man. I just want to be accepted by you all.
Yeah.
But no, it was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
Yeah, no, it was great. But what I thought was particularly interesting was your keynote. Like your keynote week, you and I were texting the other day, and one of the points hit home, which was, you know, you really focused a lot of not only keynote, but I also went to your extraction talk. Both of them really focused on your mistakes,
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty unique because most people don't do that, or most
No.
people I saw don't do that. So like, why do you do that? Like, what's your thought
Um,
process?
his failure is the easiest way to connect with someone because we all
Mm,
experience it. And, I think there's too many people out there that boast their successes. But the only way, in my opinion, that I can relate to someone is if I share, my worst story. And if I'm 100% vulnerable and, authentic in my actions and my intentions, then I think there's nothing else we can do but become friends, right? And that's always been my, like my mantra in life. I will always share a failure before I will ever share a success. And good thing I got a lot of failures to share, but yeah, that it's I don't know. I uh I just find that that's the best way to connect with people. Don't you find the same way? Like you self-deprecate all the time, man.
those are my fat kid tendencies.
Yeah,
I can't
right.
help it. I was talking about now I'm listening to David Goggins's book. Have you
Oh
read it?
shit.
Can't Hurt Me.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, man. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
get jacked up over watching his Instagram posts.
Yeah.
You're fat, you're lazy, stay hard.
Yeah, exactly. I think it kind of, I don't know if it aged well because like a lot of the times in the book he's just like, you know, we got hard. And I'm like, you really should change the saying because it didn't age well, man. But either way, like this guy is a beast, and he like his talks about him getting bullied in school, and he's just like, I had to self-deprecate first because I would outsmart the bully in making fun of me. I would make fun of myself first.
Yeah.
And I had that similar sort of past. But in that first keynote, I recall you saying you had a pudgy past too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think I'm not man, I still remember like, you're in junior high and no girls are looking at you because, you're overweight, you got a gap so wide between your teeth you could drive a truck through it, right? Like you're just awkward, you don't know how to talk to people, you're too scared to smile. You slouch, you're fat, and you have no confidence, right? And I think that's where a lot of us struggled in school, is that awkward age range, right? Where you're trying to figure out who you are, and you don't like who you see in the mirror, because it was a tough time for a lot of kids. Did you find the same thing?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's what they say, like one of my favorite sayings is chips on shoulder result in chips in pocket. So it's like, dude, it's every time I meet someone successful, I'm like, when Bill Dorfman came on the podcast, I'm like, dude, like, is this unresolved childhood trauma? Like, what
Yeah.
drives you? Like, what? And without fail, like, I don't think we had enough time to get into it with him, but without fail, every time I know someone who's faced adversity in some way or felt like they had something to prove or grew up, fat, ugly, closeted, whatever it may be, like they are just beasts like when they grow up, because like nothing, it's not a good thing all the time, but like nothing satiates them.
Oh, totally. Man, if I had to be completely honest, I could have that keynote, I could have talked for a lot longer, but I thought people would get bored by then. But the number one defining moment in my life, like ever, was I was walking in a mall in I was in grade 8. So I was like what, 13, 14 years old. I was walking in a mall and I saw my mom. And I haven't seen, at that point, like, I'm 38 years old now. I actually haven't seen my mom in 25 years. And so that was when I was 13. So I haven't seen her in a year. And I saw my mom in the mall, and she looked back at me and she says, "Have a nice life. You're going to turn out to be nothing." And, I don't want to get into the whole story, but that moment, like, changed my life. That was like my childhood trauma, like you just said. And it still fires me up. And I'm like, I have nothing left to prove to anyone, but I still remember that. And that's like my David Goggins moment that allows me to like go into beast mode and like accomplish anything I ever need to. And it's because of childhood trauma, just like that. Like I firmly believe that. I know that's not healthy from a psychological point of view, but we all have those tendencies that just like that key that turns when you hear certain things. And that's my thing, man. It's a tough
Holy.
one for me. Yeah.
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 Man, like that's like, I feel like that's just so relatable. Like, because obviously I've had my fair share of growing up super chubby and
Yeah.
you know dumb by all accounts, wanted to put being thrown into like a special needs class. And you know it's when I talk about like my childhood and growing up, and because I'm so self-deprecating like that, I find it just opens the floodgates. And then people that are like 60 and 70 are like, yeah, like this is what happened to me when I was a kid. And it sticks, like you said, like
Yeah.
that happened how many
Totally
years ago to
sticks.
you?
Yeah. They're 25, man.
25. And I'm sure it feels like it was just yesterday.
Oh man, isn't it? It's like visceral. Like you can feel it happen to you. You know what I mean? And we all have those moments. And one moment for one person is not different than a same moment for another person. Like we all have those moments that allow us to kick it into high gear, right? And so I don't know.
100%.
Yeah.
I remember like thinking back to, this was probably in grade 9. Like, disclaimer, I'm like a diagnosed dyslexic, right? And I didn't get a diagnosis until like later in life. Like I wasn't like, partially because my mom's like, we're not putting him in like the special needs class
Yeah,
because that's
yeah,
just going to kill self-confidence. He doesn't have a lot going for him anyways.
yeah. Oh, is that self-deprecating? Is that
Yeah,
is
there we
that
go.
there?
There it comes
There it
out
is
again.
again.
There it comes out again. But like, so I'm in grade 9. I'm sitting in English class, and we're reading a book on the screen, and like we're going around in a circle. And this is like probably my first week of grade 9, or like second week of grade 9. And I was like, I saw it coming around, right? I remember it was like a circular table. It was a circular brown table, and everyone was looking at the screen, and I'm sitting right in the middle, like teachers, screen, teacher, me, all in one line. And like it's coming around a circle, and I'm like halfway in, and then it comes to me, and like, and growing up, like reading out loud, is like my worst nightmare because I just can't do it. And the turn comes to me, and I'm looking at the screen, and I look at the teacher, and like I read the first couple of like words, and immediately I'm reading and I'm like crying at the same time. And it is to this day one
That
of
is,
the most embarrassing. And I just ran out, like midway through, I just like ran out of the room, and I'm like, dude, I just like went to the bathroom and bawled my eyes out. I'm like, dude, you're in high school. Like, get your shit together.
oh man.
And like ever since then, I'm like, it's like this chip, and like again, obviously word spreads like wildfire when you're like young.
Yeah,
And
at
it's
that age, right?
like Akil's like an idiot, like he can't even read, like he couldn't even get through like 3 words, and like I didn't even have like something to blame it on, right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't diagnosed until like later on. And it was just like, okay, he's just dumb. So it's like little things like that are like, like we said, it's like it feels like it's yesterday, but I could still put myself in that moment, and I
Yeah.
just kick it into overdrive. It's like full pedal to the metal. Like that will never be me again. And
I
it's
love
just
that. I just love that. I
it's
love hearing that, man.
yeah, it's just, and people don't talk about that sort of stuff, right? I feel like people, even when it comes to vulnerability, I find like there's like stages and levels of vulnerability, right? And like one level is, not vulnerable at all. I think one level is, let's say, okay, I didn't do well in school, right? And then the next level of vulnerability is, growing up, I was, had this like very poor, you know, experience. I had this really bad experience, but I've overcome it, right? I feel like that's the commonality. It's like vulnerability, but then it's like, look at me now, baby, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
it's like the next level of vulnerability, which is like I'm trying to get to, is I'm currently struggling with this, and like not having an out, you know?
yeah. Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I, I, it's hard for me to verbalize it, but yeah, I know what you mean, man. It's tough. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
tough, especially for dudes, man. Like
it
I
is
feel
tough.
like I feel for girls too, obviously. But I mean, especially for dudes, it's like, you gotta be like, you gotta be hard. According to David
Yeah,
Goggins,
you
right?
gotta be David Goggins hard, right?
You gotta
All
be
the
David
time.
Goggins hard.
Yeah, yeah.
It's tough. But back to the conference, which is what this episode's about.
Oh yeah.
What another thing that I think stuck out to me from the student perspective, because you and I had such different perspectives on it. You had the, more of the guru perspective, and I had the more of the student commenter perspective. And like one thing I found was, when you look at what dentists or dental students care about, and this was told to me many times, is that if you put dentists and you give them the choice of going to a clinical course and a non-clinical course, they'll always go to the clinical course.
Uh-huh.
Which I like, this was the first conference I'd ever been to, and I'm like, wow, that's so true. Like, have you found that as well? Like, people always go to the clinical or gravitate towards clinical?
I have I can count on the like one hand how many non-clinical courses I've been to as a dentist.
Really?
Yeah, like I don't know. It's just I always find it just not as applicable to me. I'm always like, I need to learn a skill, like a clinical skill to help me with my patients. But in fact, like I said in my keynote, like dentistry isn't about clinical skills, it's about people. And I think that's where a lot of us dentists, and I'm admitting my mistake here, is I don't pay enough attention to the non-clinical courses. Because like communication is so, the communication courses out there are so important, but I just don't like it. I just don't value them as much. And I know that's, such a horrible thing to say, but I'm always like, how can I get a better implant, or how can I take a tooth out faster? And I feel like that may not be the best thing, but I thought this conference had a good mix of both. Hey, and they were well attended. Like the non-clinical ones were well attended too.
I think relatively, yeah. Like I was expecting, I went to, she's going to be coming on the podcast, Dr.
Yeah.
Aurora, but I went to hers on how to build a loyal patient base, and that one was pretty packed as well, which was surprising to me because I just thought it would be all clinical, like all the
Yeah.
time. And that's like, me, that's not me, right? Like I want to
Yeah.
learn about the other stuff too. But I thought that was a fascinating, piece, because I think sometimes I like wish I always say to myself, and I always say to people around me, I'm like, we really, as dentists, when we come out, we're 70% of us are going to be entrepreneurs in some way, right?
Yeah.
If you're an associate, you're going to be an entrepreneur as well, because you're going to be self-employed,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. But we get such little, you know, um, business training in dental school,
Yeah.
even though it's like you can't run a good practice. Like, like if your practice isn't profitable, you're not running a good practice, right? You're not going to be sticking around.
Yeah.
So
I find I get more of my advice from books now. Like I'll seek out those books. I'm always reading books about negotiations for some reason. Like I'm always feeling like I'm gonna be in a scenario where I have to like, negotiate some sort of hostage transfer one day, that I need to read these books. But that's like where my business mind always is how do I negotiate better? How do I, because I think everything in life is a negotiation. And so I find I spend my, if I go for non-clinical courses, I'm always seeking out this like negotiation tactics and communication, because even with patients, you're negotiating with them all the time. It's not about money, it's about treatment, and it's about importance of one thing over another. So um yeah.
what'd you think of your own talk? Because I went to that. Yours was actually the only clinical talk I went to.
Okay, okay.
So what did you think of your own
Man,
talk?
what did I think of it? What did you think of it?
No, you go first. I asked you the question.
I let me tell you, when I first used to speak, so I started speaking probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe. And I used to get super nervous because I wasn't confident in my skills at all. And my tell is I don't shake or anything like that, but I sweat. And I sweat so much, man. Like, from the tip of the armpit down to my waist, it's just drenched. I know it's disgusting, but that I just started sweating, right? And I found every year I would sweat less and less and less and less. And that's why I'm always wearing a jacket, because I'm always sweating, right? And I don't want anyone to see my pit stains. But I found, every year goes by, you get more comfortable as the speaker. And I've learned one thing, and people don't remember, what exactly you teach them, but people remember your stories, and people remember, how you make them feel. And that's what I'm always focusing my lectures on, is like, how can I relate a story or create a story that's relatable to everyone, and know that you're not alone when you go through this failure. And people like me have already done that and didn't have anyone to show me. So, let me help you and show you where, you went wrong, and how you can, get out of the situation. So that's what I like to teach. And I have a fun time doing it. I love rap music, so I always put lots of rap in all my dental videos. And I don't know, I just have fun with it, man. So I hope people liked it, but I was having a blast doing it too.
If the listeners could have seen this room, it looked like, it honestly looked like you were Jesus. Like it's people were sitting on the floors, people were sitting on each other, people were like people were looking from outside of, you've seen the photos, right? Like
Yeah.
people were looking from outside of the door to just like, I'm pretty sure they didn't even have a view of you. They just had a view of the screen. Which was like, and it like, I think it was such a testament. Like the audio wasn't great, right? You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, it was such a testament to like your audio was like crackly, and the music wasn't playing right, and yet people were just like so into it. And
Yeah.
like your jokes were landing. Honestly, man, like probably one of like, and I'm not just telling you this to your face because you're here, like one of the best clinical talks I've seen,
Wow,
because it
man.
was
That
it
means a
was
lot. That's wicked.
relatable.
Yeah.
No, it was seriously, it was relatable. It was engaging. Like every, other slide, you were calling out people in the audience. You're like, and like one thing I remembered is like my girlfriend was standing next to me, right? Like I've only told you her name like twice,
Yeah.
maybe, and you're like, Ella, what do you think? And I'm like, what? Like at one, like if I'm up there, like I'm shaking. There's no way I'm remembering my own name, let alone,
Yeah.
Ella's name. But it was like I just thought it was a phenomenal talk. And the way it was just I found it was like the perfect intersection between, engaging and fun, but also, informative and useful. And I think it was like the things that I took away from it, and I actually like I don't even take notes at school, but like I took notes that you're talking. Like I think even if I had four good notes, I feel like there were legitimately applicable notes. It
Yeah.
wasn't just like, some minutia detail that you'll never actually use again. It was legitimate clinical notes that, I would use. And I haven't even done an extraction yet. So
Dude, I really appreciate that, man. It means a lot to me because I do spend a lot of time on them. Um, but I wanna share with you something that I learned as a speaker and as whatever, as just a dude that tries to help out. Um, and you're never gonna guess where I got this tidbit of information from.
David Goggins.
No, no, no. You know T.I. the rapper?
Oh God. I don't know. I don't know
Dude,
where this is going.
he had the best line I've ever heard in my entire life. And I remember this. I hear it all the time. And I only tell myself this when I go to these conferences because, like, you're being so kind to me. But dude, um if you live for the cheers, you'll die by the booze. So if you are always seeking that admiration from your peers and you live for the cheers, and that's what brings you self-worth when the next person that doesn't like your lecture says
Mm,
some one thing that they don't like about it, like it's too simplistic, or I don't like the way you do that, or you're not as funny as you think you are, or you know what I mean, you die by the booze. And to me, that just rings through for everything in life, man. Like you'll get a lot of people give you credit where credit isn't due, or um, you know, people that don't know you at all will pass judgment on you because they're either jealous or they don't know enough information and judge you incorrectly right away. You die by the booze, right? And so you're being so kind to me, but in the head, I'm like,
don't die by the
I
booze.
love it, but I can't die by the booze, man,
Don't die.
because you have to have a level head, and I never want to get to the point where I need I need your admiration because I want to continually improve. And I feel like, every talk that I do, I'm like, man, I need to include this one piece here because maybe it didn't resonate as well with the audience as I hoped it to. So maybe I need to include this. And I'm always trying to improve. And um I'm just so blessed that people even want to learn from me, man. Like it's
A
crazy
lot of
because
people do.
I don't have those mentors, man. Like I never had that mentor. Like when I couldn't get out teeth, no one was there to help me. And when I was in the middle of these mountains in Guatemala or in Ecuador, or in Peru, man, we were literally on the Amazon River, and we were working under houses with stilts because when the river rises, and there was chicken coops like right behind my head as I'm freezing my next patient to take out teeth, and there's no elevators left because they're all being sterilized. And how do you get this tooth out? And um, man, it's just you learn the hard way, and you become resourceful, and you learn, the the true value of your hands, man. And you get practice and you get good, and hopefully you can share those tidbits on with the next generation. So I've had a lot of cool experiences in my life that allowed me to get to where I am, and I'm just blessed that people even want to hear me and hear those experiences, so I can help them.
Yeah. But like I think in on one hand, was it TI?
Yeah.
Mr. TI has a point. Dr. TI has a point. And I eat that same weekend. It's funny, I was journaling one, I think it was after there was that Dental Corp event on the Saturday, and then the Sunday morning I was journaling with one eye open because I was so hungover after that open bar. But I'm journaling, and I was like going on in the journal, and at this exact same point you're making, and I had a bunch of people come up to me at the show being like, "Dude, like, or hey, like, I love the podcast, and like I listen to the podcast, and I'm like, and obviously like we can't see who's listening. We have no way
Totally.
of gauging.
Yeah.
Um,
In my head, there's like one person listening to this right now.
yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah, but what's
And
up,
it's
man?
me.
How you doing?
Yeah,
No way, man. It's my dad.
yeah, exactly. So it's like it's I had that same moment, and I stopped I shit you not, I will send you a screenshot after this of my journal entry, and I said, what are you going on about? Like I was talking about, I was like, oh, so cool, like getting recognition from like my peers. It feels good. But then I said, you can't feel the good unless you feel the bad.
That's right, man.
So I would rather just do what I feel is best. But that's more of an external thing, right? Like, I mean, or an internal thing. Like, externally, I feel like, people can say it's great. And I'll use that as positive, reassurance, because, that's kind of the audience, right? Like, dental students were the audience. So, like, I would kind of have to listen to that. So,
Yeah.
wonder how TI got around that loophole.
I mean, it's genius, man. It's so genius because the second you seek external validation, um, I think you set yourself up for so much failure, man. And that goes for, I think we were talking about it before, like, if you're always trying to keep up with your neighbors, or you're always trying to do work so hard just so someone gives you praise for volunteering somewhere, or whatever it is. If you seek that external validation, you're always going to set yourself up for success. You have to do it for you. And that is exactly why I teach. Is I get more from it than the audience does, because I feel like I'm helping my profession by sharing my mistakes. And um, I get so much joy out of that at the end of the day. If I can look in the mirror and say, hey, that was you did a good job like doing that. People can say it sucked and I will still be okay with myself.
Yeah. I wonder how much, going back to the fat kid and the self-deprecation, I wonder how much that has to do with, it's a good question, my therapist, has to do with, that, like, seeking, never getting, external validation, to
Oh,
getting external validation. And
dude,
you're
that's
like,
100% what it is, man. It's totally, it's the fat kid looking in the mirror wanting a girl to like him.
mhm,
That's exactly what it is, man. We didn't get that self-validation before. And then now when we seek it, you know, we love it. And it's our vice, but it's also toxic. And I feel like I'm getting old enough to understand that, because 10 years ago I would have eaten that stuff up and made that my self-worth. And I think a lot of dentists fall in the same trap too. Is we're so focused on allowing dentistry to be our identity. And I'm so at fault for this too. But if I injure my hands and I can't work, who is Necky?
mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And who
Yeah,
is 99% of other dentists out there? Because my entire community knows me as Necky the dentist, right?
yeah.
Like I walk in, Safeway, and people pull out their cheeks and, hey, what do you think about this tooth? Or kids come up to me and say, hey, I brushed my teeth just like you told me to. And that's nice, but I don't want to be known for just being a dentist, right?
For sure. Oh, 100%. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP
Yeah.
Morgan Chase, or the president of JP Morgan Chase, he said, I think he got let go from one of the other big banks. It might have even been JP Morgan. I don't know, but he got let go from, he was the president or CEO of one of the big banks. And he said, I got let go. I got told I was getting fired. And I went home and I knew that this only hit my net worth, not my self worth. So I
Oh,
was okay. So he said, I still
wow.
got to go home to my wife and kids. I still got to do the things I normally do as dad, but this only hit my self worth. So there's something to be said about, separating your eggs and dispersing them in the right baskets, and not leaving them all in like the dental basket or the podcaster basket, or
Yeah.
the even like career focused basket, right? Like, you should just be a good human being. You should be a good partner. You should be a good son, a good, whatever. So
Yeah.
it's like you kind of have to disperse them out. But I mean, one other thing I found at the events was, there was like this nice balance I found between like learning and studying, and then obviously like there's the networking side. And I mean, you have a huge network of people, and like, I mean, obviously at the conference, everyone was coming up to say hi to you, but just in general, I know you have a big network. What have you found to be the keys of success when it comes to networking?
Hmm. I see. It's funny you say that because I feel like I don't do a great job of networking, but I don't know, man. I'm just always the first one to say hi to everyone. And I don't care if you're the janitor or if you're the CEO. I like to treat everyone the same. Um, and I don't know. I just go up to everyone and I say hi. And when people, don't reciprocate that, or people like, give me one word answers back, that's what hurts my feelings, man. I'm like, I just want you to talk to me. So I don't know if I had any advice for anyone. um, just introduce yourself to people. You'll have no idea where it will lead to. And I don't know how many times I need to say this, Akil, but life is a string of pearls, man. Like your one connection you make can open up the doors to anything. So I just talk to anyone and everyone who will give me the time of day, man.
Are you an extrovert naturally or an introvert?
I think 10 years ago I was an introvert, and now I'm becoming more of an extrovert for sure. Like I will talk to people all the time. But I find it exhausting for sure. Like when, 5 o'clock rolls around, I need to have like an hour of silence at the end of the day because I feel like, I pull teeth all day. And so I'm always have to be the caretaker, and I always have to be, everything's going to be okay. I'll sedate you. The drugs are going to be awesome. And at the end of it, you're going to get my cell phone number. And I'm always on my game because if I have that one patient, I'm not on my game, I've let them down. And they're so scared already. I don't have that opportunity to not be on my game. So I'm putting so much energy out there. And that's what people like me is for my energy. So if I don't have that, like, I'm just not being me. And that's what drains me at the end of the day. So, I used to be an introvert because I just wanted to, have my alone time. But now, after work, I am getting better at separating life and work, and I'm able to give like my partner Nicole like so much more of me instead of just closed off. I need my own space. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. I bounce between the both, on a daily basis. Like I'll have like days where I'm like, I need to talk to people and like I need to, interact. And then there'll be days where I'm like, I don't want anyone talking to me.
Oh,
Like,
totally, man. Oh,
don't text me, don't call me, don't
yeah.
like any of my photos, don't even like nothing should pop up on my phone.
you know,
Nothing at all.
it's weird though, because like I'm 38 years old, and I still live alone. Like my partner, we've been dating for what 7 or 8 years now, and we live in different cities. We're 2 hours apart, and it works. Like it gives me the freedom to come home and do whatever I need to do to work on courses. And then on weekends I see her, and it's hard, as almost 40 to meld two different lives together that are so different. Um, it allows me to be an introvert in the evening though. So I don't know. It's a funny story, but I guess it works for different people for sure.
Works to you. Well, yeah, there's no one recipe that sort of is the right way to do it. Like maybe the goal, maybe the thing I'll do is I'll just like move to like London, Ontario.
There you go.
Maybe I'll do
No,
that. No, I don't
yeah.
know.
What did you find? What was your favorite part of the course, man? Like of the whole conference?
Um, I think one was just seeing how many people were, more similar to. It's gonna sound cliche, but like these people I've never met in my life. Like I remember there was this group of girls that the fire alarm went off. Do you remember the fire alarm went off in the
Oh
hotel?
God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could
Yeah,
have
like
swore someone like was drunk the night before and or was dared to do it or something like that. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah.
So like we were like hustling down the stairwell, and these group of girls from, I think it was Dalhousie. Um, like as we're walking down, I think we're on like the 15th floor, and as we're walking down 15 floors, like on the 12th floor, these girls come in the stairwell, and we have like 12 more floors to like walk down.
Yeah.
And like we just like struck up a conversation. It was like a bit of an awkward conversation because like I had my back faced towards them, and like you're going down flights of stairs, you only see each other every like other flight, so it was
Yeah.
a bit
Yeah. Yeah.
awkward. But like in those 12 flights, I realized how much more we have similar than we do apart. Like, for example, like the profs that they have there, like one of them came to lecture at our school, and then we were talking about that prof, and just shooting the shit about the prof and being like, you know, this is, I don't want to get into it because
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
going live,
You
but
get in trouble.
yeah, exactly. Just like shooting the shit about it. And like we started talking about like the program and like what you do in third year versus fourth year. And it was like pretty much the same. And, they're just getting into clinics. I'm just getting into clinics. They're just seeing their first patients. And having 500 people like that come together, I thought that was pretty neat. Like I thought it was pretty neat just to see more people like yourself. Because dental school's small, man. Like it's 90 people a year, 96 people a year, pretty much in my school. And then, all we really have is Western Dental, which is like, I think 50. It's like a really small
Yeah.
class. And then that's it for Ontario. Like
Totally.
every year, there's like 150 new dentists that graduate. There's so few of us. And
Yeah.
then we just basically disperse to our little islands, and then, never to be heard from again. Right. Like
Oh,
you
I
have your own
totally
practice.
agree, man. Yeah.
So it was cool just to see everyone together and be like, and it was a little bit sad because it was the last conference. I think it is the last conference I'll go to in my dental career. And the next time I'll be with that many students all in one spot, or like that many dentists all in one spot is, you know, maybe if I join a study club or if I join one of
Yeah.
those, but then you only get the people in your local area. So it was a bit of I only reflected on that kind of after the fact, and during the conference it was all just chaos, and trying to go here, trying to go there. It's like a 5 minute break, got to go get lunch, got to go get dinner. So that was something I reflected on after the fact, and really wish I took that in more during the actual conference.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. A common theme came up with a lot of people, just like how you're saying everyone, is in the same position, just different parts of the country. I probably got asked 50 times, how do you open up multiple offices? I found that
Really?
very interesting. Yeah. Like, I want to learn the business side of dentistry. And I was always seated next to Hisham Shergan, and he'll be on the pod soon. That guy is just unbelievable, but he owns like so many practices, like 30 offices he's partnered in. And he would, whenever I had this question, I'd be like, man, just talk to Hisham. He knows what it's all about. But everyone had the same question. It's I just find it so interesting. So many people are so interested in the entrepreneurial side of dentistry before they even know their clinical skills. And I found that to be very, very interesting because I didn't think that when I was in dental school. Like I found a lot of students right now are very business driven, very business focused, and they still don't even know the use of their own hands in order to guide that business. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I'm probably in that camp too. So
Yeah, but it's different though, because a lot of people were like, I want to open up three practices in this area. And I was like, what are you doing, man? And Hisham was joking with me. He's like, man, I just wish people would come up to me and ask me, how do you place an implant? And instead they're asking me, how do you how do you make a successful practice? So I don't know. I don't think that as many people when I graduated were as business focused. Do you guys talk a lot about that in school or something? Or where's
no,
that coming from?
never. Like that's such a surprise to me. Wow. I think maybe some of it is just a little bit of wishful thinking. Like I remember I spoken to a couple of people before they graduated, and they're like, I'm just gonna open like 10 practices, just have like, this, that going, and then, they graduated and they're still associating, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
and like their goal was to do it like right out of school. So I wonder how much of it is just like wishful thinking. And then I
Hmm.
wonder how much of it is just, you know, you got to walk before you can run. You got to learn how to read a financial statement. You can't just jump into three practices, never having run a dental office before.
Totally.
Like it drives me bonkers when people, um, people like even outside of dentistry are just like, yeah, like we'll just throw like a bunch of cash at the clinic and it should run. I'm like, it's not how it works, right?
Yeah,
Like this is like running a mini hospital. Like you gotta make sure things are right before you just you have patients at stake. So I mean, you're not running a bakery. No offense to bakeries, but it's a bit of a different ball game. It's not low risk or no risk necessarily.
man, you're totally right. Like I remember when I first opened up, or when we purchased our office, I remember getting like on February 1st, 2010, I guess, my first financial statement. And I was like, what is an income statement? What is a balance sheet? Why are all these numbers negative? Do you know what I mean? And you're like, I'm sure it'll work itself out, but like you're totally right. Like you need to learn to walk before you can run, and learning the business side of things is so important, because I've seen so many dentists like spend 1.5 million on a startup in a crap oversaturated area, and you're gonna be paying that thing off for 10 years before you even break a profit. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it really worth it? But they're just so allured by the name of practice ownership, or saying that you're a practice owner. You lose sight of what is really important. But also the bank is so willing to 100% finance you. Your sales reps are so willing to motivate you, and you can get eaten up so quick in this industry.
Yeah.
It frustrates me that this environment exists.
Yeah, like kind of what I see is very few fail, like flat out fail, like
Yeah,
bankrupt, lose the house, lose family, like
no,
like
absolutely.
that never happens. I just see a lot of people doing mediocre, and it's like, had you not been so fixated on just owning a practice and sort of doing it that way, you could have way less headache just being an associate,
Oh yeah,
and you'd
making
probably be
more.
making the same more or the same
You'd
amount of
make
money.
more for sure.
Yeah.
No,
So it's like, why go through that extra headache and buy the practice and worry about HR and worry about floods and worry about, this, that, and the other, when you could just be an associate, do your dentistry exactly as you were trained, and you don't have to worry about the business. But
and
it's
it's the
just like,
random bills, man. Like one of my HVAC units gave out the other day, and I just got a bill for $21,000. I was like, where the hell did that come from? It's just random bills, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, I don't understand what's the big allure about getting random massive bills. And like my visa statement last month was $182,000. Like, who wants this stuff, man? Like, I don't know. I think people are so fascinated by the name and the thought of practice ownership. They're just not understanding what's involved, right?
yeah. I saw in the Facebook group, or a Facebook group, one of the dentists posted. They said my hygienist just dropped the iTero scanner, and I got a quote from, and it's literally like the plastic on the iTero scanner
Yeah.
just cracked off. Um, and you know what the quote was?
Yeah. 21 grand.
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
I think it was
It's
just
like
shy of
20
that. It was
grand.
like
Yeah.
20. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like,
Or
are you
18. Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous. And like, imagine if you were an associate, just throw them against the wall
Oh,
all that you
totally.
want.
Yeah. Peace out.
And
I'm going to go
you,
home now. You deal with it.
yeah, exactly. Have fun. Like, see you later. So, I mean, yeah, that's an interesting observation. I would not have guessed that, to be honest with you, that a lot of people would be interested in that.
Totally. And I found it interesting. Like, usually when I give like an extraction lecture or an implant lecture, um, I get a lot of questions about extractions. Like, what do you think about this case? And I understand it's students, so I'm not going to get that.
Yeah.
But it was all like business questions. And then in the implant lecture, I found it so interesting. The, like the different schools are at different levels of their implant journeys. Like you'll get a U of A student who's placing an actual implant on a patient, and you'll get a student from another school that hasn't even had an implant lecture yet. And yet, they're going to graduate and they're going to be expected to be at the same level. Um, but I also found it was funny, like, the U of A students who placed one implant are talking to me about like, I want to do an immediate implant. How do I get into immediate implants? And I was like, dude, you need to walk before you can run. Don't be like, man, I find immediate implants hard, and
Yeah.
and I do them all the time, right? Like, and so I don't know. I just feel like that's the dental student mentality, is you do something once, you read about it, and you feel like you can do it, and then when you get into the real world, you get slapped because it's nothing what school has taught you. It's nothing like what you've read, and you're faced with these complications. And I wish when I graduated, someone told me to take it easy, learn the basics, and invest so much in your education before you invest in anything else. Invest in your education, because
Yeah.
that's what's going to set yourself up for success. Is if you do want to be like a wet finger dentist, and be in your clinic 5 days a week, get so good at your skills that like no one will even question you, or you won't question yourself. But you need to educate yourself, and I hate to say it, dental school isn't what's going to educate you.
Yeah. No, it's not. And I can't help but just look at the commonalities between the things that are very attractive, like multiple practice ownership and implants, like the two most well-paying like domains to be in. And like I get it. Like I 100% truly get it. Dental school is expensive as hell, right? Like I pay 50 G's a year just to go to school without living. I mean, you look at some of the old school dentists, like it's not that expensive. It's like, buddy, you
I
paid a
paid
nickel a
eight.
year.
Yeah, right.
You literally had to put like
They
it
were
in the
paying
gumball
me to go to
machine.
school.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's a different ball game, and whether you like it or not, that's the reality. Um, I just really hope that people don't get into obviously one, clinical trouble, but two, financial trouble, because they're just
Yeah.
chasing the wind. They're just keeping up with the Joneses. They're just um going to implants because they think implants are lucrative versus I know a lot of dentists that just do bread and butter dentistry that are making wicked money.
Yeah, totally, man.
Like not surgery,
Absolutely.
not implants, not veneers, like bread and butter dentistry, fill and drill and fill, and they're making money. So it's
Yeah.
like you don't need to do that, right?
And low
With one
stress.
practice.
Low stress, man. Like once you get into the higher procedures or the higher end procedures, the stress like log scale, man. It's an exponential scale for
Yeah,
the amount of stress that you're going to be taking on, because with, those high rewards become high risk. And just remember, nothing lasts forever. And when people pay that kind of money, they expect it to last for a certain amount of time. And you can go over informed consent as much as you want, but you're dealing often with patients that aren't at their healthiest state, because they don't have teeth anymore, or they're looking for that second lease on life with a new smile, but they're not, their body may not allow that to happen, and yet we're going to be providing that. And nothing lasts forever, and unfortunately, I learned the hard way as well. But you will see failures, and they'll have a lot of sleepless nights with those big cases too.
for sure. Like I can't even imagine I don't do any of those big cases, but it's
Yeah.
true. And I think just the solution to that is education. Like
Totally.
learn the business of dentistry so you're not just doing it based on what someone else said. Because that's another big thing in dentistry is I had on Dan Haggy a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago. And he had said, dentists and healthcare professionals, they pride themselves on being evidence based, right? Like
Yeah.
everything's evidence based, evidence based, evidence based. He's like, it's not. It's in dentistry, they're gurus that you follow because they say that that's a particular way to do it, or a way to practice manage, or a way to do implants, and it's the gurus you follow. It's not necessarily 100% evidence based.
That's right.
So it's like I find the same thing. The word gets around in dentistry so quickly, like you know multi-practice ownership is profitable. Okay, now everyone and their mother wants to do multi-practice ownership. No. Like next year, Neki said owning one big practice is profitable. Okay, now everybody
Yeah.
goes to like one practice, right? And then the next year, it's like someone says, no ownership is needed, and then it's like it's. I feel like it's one of those cycles that will just probably come around, and I think just the way to solve that is just get educated. Like I mean, I think that's part of the hope of this podcast is we have honest conversations, like actually learn what it takes to, for example, like Fresh Shaw, what it takes to write a textbook. Is
Yeah.
that financially rewarding? Is that a way to go about things? We're going to have on, others that are multi-practice owners and talk to them about, is that a realistic, a
Is
feasible
that the
way
way
to
to
go
go?
about it? Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that the way to go?
But also one more thing, and Akil, you actually taught me something that I put to use just yesterday. So we were talking
Uh-oh.
about mentorship a while back, and you know, I started to think like, who do I have in my corner that I can call upon for help? And I realized my list is, you know, really low. I've put myself on my own island, and that's not because I haven't tried, but I just didn't know who to ask either, and I always found it awkward. And I asked you, I'm like, dude, how do you find a mentor? And you're like, dude, you just ask, and you just find the people that you know you want to learn from. So I've had a really bad let's just talk about vulnerability. Let's talk about failure. I've had a really bad success. I just had a really bad success rate with real estate because in our area, you know, we suffered the oil boom and then dump, and it was rough on a lot of people. And you know, I guess when I started to have money from working, that's when you know I was ready to invest, and that's when I bought at the top and I I hold the bag at the bottom, right? And so you know, I own my building where I work in, but I was going to buy the you know, section next door, and the landlord came up to me. He's like, Neki, I want to sell you this building. And in the back of my head, it's just like the oven is still burning hot. Like the handle is still burning hot. Do you really want to grab that handle again, burn your hand because you've screwed up so many times in the past? And so like I just went up to, you know, the top real estate guy in our area, and I say, listen, man, I failed over and over. I need a mentor. Like, I don't care what it takes. Would you be willing to help me and help me learn my mistakes and what I could do differently in the future? And he was just so honored, and he was just like, sure, when do we start? And to me, it was almost like a breath of fresh air. It was almost this like weight has been taken off this chest, knowing that, you know, I have failed. You know, I don't really, I look back right now and I used to care that I failed about it, but I don't anymore because, you know, I've learned a lot, and that's the most important part. But just asking to have that guy in my corner to, you know, run questions by him and learn how to read, you know, a real estate financial statements, or you know, a commercial building assessments from him, and see how he looks at the numbers, I think is priceless. So, you know, thank you for, you know, teaching me how to reach out to find a mentor. But that goes the same for dentistry. Like the Paresh Shaws of the world. Like that guy is such a value bank of knowledge. And I'm sure he'd be willing to answer questions and help all of us in our journeys. And it's so important to have that in our careers. And I wish, I wish and I pray for everyone who's listening that, you know, find those mentors early in your career, because people want to help you. You just need to know how. Like, I haven't met a person that is not willing to help you. If they're not willing to help you, they're just too arrogant or too high on
Yeah.
themselves. People always answer questions if you know you need help, and we have a lot of great people in this profession that are willing to help. So, you know, reach out and find those mentors that will help you.
I'm honored, man. I can't believe I
Yeah.
actually taught you something.
Oh, come on, man.
But I think the one biggest problem people make when finding a mentor, because I've been a huge, you know, benefactor of no beneficiary, not
Yeah.
benefactor, beneficiary of uh of mentors and really great mentorship. And I think the number one mistake people make when they're finding mentors or trying to reach out is they look for the person they want to be, and they hold off until, I've met so many people that are like, one of my buddies was like, dude, I don't need a mentor. Like, like, I go to school, I learn, I work, I kind of, get feedback and I learn. And I just haven't found anyone that, is the person I want to be, right? Is like the guidepost of, or like my North Star. And I'm like, over and over again, I hear that, like, same excuse of why people won't reach out or why they don't want to, engage. And it shouldn't really be viewed like that. I think, yes, I have, quite a few people in my life, that actually two in particular, that I look to and I'm like, I really admire you as a person, right? like as a person, I think you're top notch, you're ethical, you are fair, you're kind, you're the kind of person I want to be. But there's so many people that I think I've leaned on in my short career that I'm just like, I just really love how you do this one thing. And, I don't really need you to teach me a million things, but, you're an incredible marketer. How can I learn marketing from you? Or you're an incredible, um, you're an incredible son, or you're an incredible whatever, right? Like, how can I learn that one particular skill from you? And I mean, that's just opened up, so many doors for me. And it's just been extremely rewarding that I don't kind of wait until I meet the perfect. It's kind of like the opposite feeling of like dating someone, right? Like it's like you don't want to date someone. Like think of it like as opposite dating. Like you don't want to date someone because like
It's
they
supposed
have
to
a
get
good job.
dangerous.
Yeah,
Just so you know.
exactly. Like you don't want to date someone because they have a good job or like just because they're attractive or whatever it may be. Like you kind of want to date that person as a whole. I kind
Yeah.
of view mentorship as the other way around. Like you want to
That's
look
a
for the key
very astute
attributes.
point, man. I really like that.
Yeah, like you kind of want to look for those key attributes that you want to pick up and learn and implement, and then just reach out for those or ask help for those because no one's going to be you know, no one's going to be the Akil of 50 years from now, right? I
Yeah.
hope there's not like I want to be my own person, right?
Yeah.
So I find that a really helpful thing that I kind of learned along the way is just not looking for that person as a whole, but kind of looking for the person in. Drake actually had a really good quote since we're on the rap thing.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
says, he's in an interview and he goes, "Man, I just been dating a lot of girls because I like this one's career and I like this one's you know aesthetic and I like this one's creativity." So it's like use Drake's mentality as your North Star, right? Like find the people like that have the sweet career or like the sweet like creative or like the cool like lifestyle.
Yeah.
Look at that, so
Or
much
just
wisdom from rap.
listen to rappers and their quotes on
Yeah.
Instagram, and it'll take you far in life.
We just threw away all of our credibility, man.
Yeah.
Anything
No,
else from the
dude, we
conference?
went so off topic on this conference. No, man, it was honestly it was so cool to see the students. I try to stay connected. I don't teach at so I went to the University of Saskatchewan. I don't teach there because it is like 2.5 hours from me. It's hard to go back and do like a half day clinical whatever. So I don't do that, but I stay connected to them by now that COVID's over, we started our volunteer trips again. So I always take 3 dental students with me to like Central America, and we do dental work. So that's kind of how I stay connected to that student community. But it's just cool to see everyone together again. I think COVID was crappy for dental students. I don't know how you become a dentist without being in the clinic. So it's nice to see, the post-COVID world back together, and dental students are allowed to do their thing again. Like, can you imagine not going through clinic and like taking a one tooth and they give you a dental degree?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
But that
Well,
was
good thing
life,
it's
right?
back to normal now.
Yeah.
Like I think our for all future employers,
Yeah, no shit,
our
eh?
year is good.
Yeah.
But
That's good vintage. Yeah.
yeah, we're a good vintage. 2020, whatever, 3, yeah, 2022. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. They're all great. They're all doing pretty good. I think they found ways, at least at Toronto, to supplement most of it.
Yeah.
But I can't really speak to the other schools.
Yeah. But
So,
no, I thought it was a super successful conference. I just thank you all for accepting me and allowing me to teach you guys and have me do the keynote. That was super fun for me, and honestly one of the career highlights to date so far for sure. It's a huge honor that you get to talk to all the dental students at once. Like, these guys are all my colleagues, right? So I will never forget that. That was a pretty cool career highlight for me.
yeah, it seemed like a pretty special moment.
Yeah.
Glad I was there to witness it. Thanks to you.
Yeah, man.
Cool, man. I think that's a wrap.
For
Uh,
sure.
well, stay tuned. We got episodes coming out every week. We got a bunch banked
Yeah.
with some super exciting guests. So stay tuned.